Good morning, students. In last class, I explained about Mendel's laws of inheritance. Mendel studied garden pea plant. In garden pea plant, he has noticed different variations, large number of variations he noticed in the garden pea plant. Among them, he studied 7 pairs of contrasting characteristics. What are the 7 pairs of contrasting characteristics Mendel studied in a garden pea plant, which I have written on the board? So now let us see what are the characteristics Mendel studied. Okay, mainly first one is stem height. So in the garden pea plant, he has taken tall plant is crossed with a dwarf plant. So this is one of the contrasting pair of a character which Mendel studied in a garden pea plant. Similarly, so Mendel has taken or considered flower color. Okay, in garden pea plant. So there are the garden pea plant produces two types of flowers. One is called as a violet flower and another one is called as a white flower. Violet flower is a dominant and white flower is a recessive one. And another characteristic, third characteristic, Mendel, what he studied in a garden pea plant is flower position or position of the flower. So some of the flowers are developed from the axillary region and those flowers are called as axillary flowers, and another flower which are produced at the tip, they are called as a terminal flower. Axillary flowers are dominant over the terminal flowers. Okay, and fourth contrasting characteristic which Mendel studied is shape of the pod. Pod shape. So here shape of the pod. Some of the pods are flat, which is known as inflated, and some of the pods were constricted. So this is constricted, and inflated is dominant and constricted is recessive one. Fifth contrasting characteristic which is studied by Mendel is color of the pod or pod color. Generally, so majority of the pods are green in color and few of the pods are yellow in color. And sixth contrasting characteristic, and that is shape of the seed or seed shape. Most of the seeds are round shaped, so that is dominant characteristic over the another shape called as a wrinkled seed. And the last seventh pair of a contrasting characteristic which Mendel studied is color of the seed. Okay, yellow color of the seed is dominant over the green color of the seed. Some of the very important terms used in genetics. Genetics is a different branch terms used in genetics. What are the different terms? Terminology. Some it is a since it is a branch of biology. Some specific terminologies which are used in genetics. First one is gene. So gene. Gene is a unit. It is one of the unit of inheritance. Unit of inheritance or unit of heredity. So like this you can define. What is gene? It is a unit of inheritance, or in a simple language we can call it as a segment of DNA. It is a segment of DNA, part of the DNA which can control particular characteristic. So therefore it is known as a unit of inheritance. And one more term is phenotype. Generally, phenotype means external appearance or morphological characteristic of any organism or part of the organism is called as phenotype or phenotypic character. Similarly, another term is called as genotype. Genotype is genes which constitutes the gene which can control the external characteristics or genetic constituent of an organism is called as genotype. So this is another one. Next one is, so you have to understand about the word cross. Repeatedly we can use this word in this context. In the genetics chapter we will use the word cross. Cross means the process of bringing characters, the process of bringing characters of two different organisms, two different organisms together is called as cross. Okay, so this cross are of different types. In this we have to understand about monohybrid cross. So here monohybrid cross, you know that very well. Mendel was the first to conduct hybridization experiments, and he studied the process of inheritance, to know about the inheritance of only one characteristic through a cross known as monohybrid cross. But you can define that it is a cross between two plants. Monohybrid cross is a cross between two plants which are differing in one pair of contrasting characters. One pair of contrasting character is called monohybrid cross. Similarly, we can use one more word, that is dihybrid cross. Dihybrid cross. In the same way how we have defined in monohybrid cross, in the same way you can define it also. It is a cross between two plants. It is also cross between two plants which are differing in. So this is what you have to understand here. Which are differing in two pairs of contrasting characters. Two pairs of contrasting characters is called as dihybrid cross. Okay, so these are some more terminology which we can discuss now. Next one is alleles. Pair of genes. Diploid organisms have pair of genes. So now let us see this homologous chromosomes. Diploid organisms generally have pair of chromosomes. These are called as homologous chromosomes. And at a specific location, genes are present. So this pair of genes, they control pair of contrasting characters. Pair of genes controls pair of contrasting characters. Pair of contrasting character. Pair of genes controlling pair of contrasting characters is called as alleles. Okay, and one more term is F1 generation. Or filial 1 generation. So this is the first hybrid generation. First hybrid generation developed in a cross. First hybrid generation developed in a cross is called as F1 generation. Similarly, F2 generation. So this is, in simple language, we can call it as a second generation. Second hybrid generation which is developed in a cross or hybridization technique is called as F2 generation. Similarly, other terms which we can use is dominant. Generally in this concept we will use, and also we can use in society also. Dominant, here you can say dominant gene. In genetics we can use the term dominant gene. Outside also we can use the word dominant. But here dominant gene is the gene which can express in the presence of another gene is called as a dominant gene. It should express in the presence of another one. Okay, say for example, capital T is a gene, small t is another gene. So in this, in this pair of genes, which gene expresses, that gene is called as a dominant gene. Suppose if capital T is expressed in the presence of a small t, then capital T is called as a dominant gene. And if a small t is expressed in the presence of a capital T, then small t becomes dominant. But generally, dominant can be represented by a capital letter. Okay, so that dominant gene, which is the gene which can express in the presence of a opposite one, that is very, very important. Okay, similarly, one more is a recessive gene. Next one is called as a recessive gene. Okay, recessive gene means the gene which fails to express or which do not express in the opposite, in the presence of another gene, is called as a in the presence of another gene, in the presence of opposite gene or in the presence of another gene is called as a recessive gene. Mendel, after conducting hybridization experiments in a garden pea plant, he thought that he has got an idea that what are the reasons for inheritance of a characteristics from one generation to another generation. So that he understood that, or he proposed that something, he doesn't know what exactly is responsible for the inheritance of a characteristics from one generation to another generation. He has got an idea, he has got a question, otherwise we can say in his mind, something is being stably passed down unchanged. This is very, very important. Unchanged, without undergoing any change. Something passed down to the next generation. Through the gametes. This is also very, very important. Through the gametes. Okay, something is passed down stably, unchanged through the gametes only it is passed. And now what something is said? He said something is responsible. Okay, for the inheritance of characteristics. But for the something, later he called that is what he called it as a factors. He doesn't know the exact word, therefore he called it as a factors. These facts, some factors are responsible. The meaning of something is some factors. Factors are responsible for the inheritance of a characteristics from one generation to another generation. And these factors, now we call these factors as genes. We have given names to these Mendelian factors as genes. Mendel conducted various experiments in which he has studied how characteristics get inherited from one generation to another generation. So he studied 14 true breeding varieties in a garden pea plant. But he went on studying systematically one by one, and first in his experiment, he conducted the experiment to to know the inheritance of only one gene. That inheritance is called as inheritance of one gene. Inheritance of one gene. Inheritance of one gene. So this was the first experiment which is conducted by Mendel. So he wanted to know a particular gene, how it gets inherited to the next generation. So he conducted experiment to know